And let's kick off in cinema. And we're going to kick off in cinema with Elvis. Now, Elvis, this is, as well, it does what it says in the tin. It's a film about Elvis by Baz Luhrmann. And it's a film that I did not manage to see this week because, once again, timings. The big problem in this Netflix to cinema fight, the big problem cinema has timings. So, Sharon, take it away, because the both of you have seen Elvis. Tell us what Elvis is all about. Tell us how Elvis goes.
Elvis is a biopic with a bit of a twist. It has, it basically is the story of Elvis Presley. We first meet him when he is playing like country fairs and carnival type places with he's just released his first record, so there's get a bit of buzz about him, but he's still literally very sort of parochial. He's in his own sort of small area. And then he is discovered by a carny, like showman type.
Love that word, carny.
Theatre guy who, his name is, I'm going to say Colonel Parker.
Yeah, Colonel Tom Parker.
Colonel Tom Parker, who basically then takes Elvis and turns him up to 11.
Yeah.
So he gets the record deal, he gets the promotion, he promotes him in terms of like posters and badges and he merchandises him basically.
Yeah.
Makes him like a major commodity.
Yeah.
And then you see it follows Elvis quite in detail in his early life, and then it sort of as the film goes on, it sort of speeds up. So the 50s takes like a third of the film, like more than a third of the film, and then the next 2 decades are like compacted into the last hour. So it sort of speeds up as you go through the 60s and 70s, and then it sort of slows down, and you get a big thing about the 1968 comeback special, and then sort of briefly it touches on sort of his last few years. But it's basically looking at the phenomena of who was Elvis and his relationship with Colonel Parker, and then sort of his decline basically. And obviously Baz Luhrmann has his own theories about what led about to the ultimate sort of tragic death of Elvis at the shocking age of 42. So yes, that's it basically. I thought there's some interesting things to talk about the film in terms of its stylization. I mean, a lot of the filming, it was almost like they've looked at those classic film footage of Elvis and then they've replicated it in large degrees. So some of the filming, it looks like it's filmed on film, so you get that sort of graininess, the quality, you get that look about it. And then for each of the decades, you have like a very 70s feel, also a very 50s feel to the whole aesthetic for the 50s sections. Then 60s, it goes like into Elvis movie mode. So it's a very much heightened colours, heightened, everything is sort of like Technicolor.
Yeah.
And then in the 70s, suddenly it goes a little bit French Connection, where it's becomes slightly grainy again, and all the clothes become a little bit more tawdry. So you end up with this.
The hair changes.
So the mood of the film changes as the sort of these decades pass, and so visually you see these different hints. So part of me thought it was a great film, and another part of me thought I didn't actually come out of it knowing any more about Elvis than I did before, and any more about Tom Parker than I did before.
Yeah.
It talks about at the beginning. You see Tom Hanks, who plays Tom Parker. He talks to the camera saying, "Am I a villain or am I the hero, or could there have been an Elvis without me?" And there's sort of some fantasy elements about the scenes you see with him and how he. But I don't really think we got much of an insight into what it was all about. But there were some amazing scenes. But I'll let Shauna, you say what you think about it as well before I go into the bits I thought were particularly good.
Okay. Well, I've seen this film twice already. I shall go and see it again. I loved it from the start. From the start, it just set me up. It was just like the most amazing thing I've seen for so much. It was proper Baz Luhrmann, absolutely beautiful, sumptuous opening credits. I love split screen in movies, absolutely adore split screen. I ever have since the 71 Le Mans film with Steve McQueen. I just love the split screen. And there's loads of split screen with different images and all that. And this is like, and I sat back there and I was like, man, this just blew me away. Just totally blew me away, you know, with exactly like Sharon said, with a bit of old footage made look old. And he was brilliant. The guy who played him was absolutely phenomenal.
Austin Butler. That was going to be a question of mine, is like, because Austin Butler, it was a case when he was cast, people were like, "Well, it doesn't really look like Elvis," and it was one of those things where it's like, this guy has to nail this thing. If not, people are gonna come for him.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Elvis. I tell you what is quite interesting though. I wondered, because call for Dr. Nick, and I wondered if that's why in The Simpsons they call him Dr. Nick. You know what I mean? So, like,
hi everybody.
Dr. Nick, and I was thinking, yeah, right. So I wondered if that's why The Simpsons used Dr. Nick. But man, I love this film. This is the best film I've seen for a long time. I absolutely adore it. Absolutely adore it. I can't say enough about it. Everything in there, really enjoyed. The music, the split screen techniques, I love split screen. Absolutely beautiful. So
I think one of my visual highlights was when they did like the Elvis's 60s movie career, his film.
Yeah.
They did a sort of scene on his tour bus where it's almost like they've taken one of his musical numbers and then they basically recreated that within like a tour bus and introducing all of his members of his entourage. Part of like this sort of dance, this number.
I mean, I'm quite interested in Elvis actually as well, so it's quite interesting. At the start of the credits, there was some like ornaments and things that come up and all that, because there was a song by someone, it's called Porcelain Monkey, and I don't know why it's just sort of stuck in my mind for ages. He gave it all up for a porcelain monkey, and the whole story is, it's about it's a good tune to listen to. But yeah, I mean, no, Sharon, you're right. It was, I mean, yeah, this was class. For me, this is Baz Luhrmann at its best.
Yeah, absolutely. There are certain bits I really liked about it. I mean, there were certain instances where they used, you probably noticed this as well, they used real footage, and then but they sort of spliced it in. So there's one where it was like the actor, then it was like real Elvis, then it was the actor again. Only for a split second, but you're like going, that was the real Elvis. And then at the end, they do this segue between the actor singing Elvis's final recording, and then it merges into the real Elvis, which is a tragic part.
I mean, they made him look that. Yeah. But what's not to love about this? Like you say, and Sharon, like you were saying about the different eras, the different decades, absolutely right up my street. Absolutely. I'm like, oh yeah, look at those cars. There's an old 56 Buick.
I'm thinking Shaun, that's where you live. That is where you live. that whole era is where
that's where I live. Yeah. So, and I mean, as well, when you see him in his older years as well, you know what I mean? When he's like haunch, should we say, or a bit. That was, yeah. I mean,
essentially, the Elvis I was first introduced to in the white sequined jumpsuit on a stage and sweating on a stage in Las Vegas somewhere.
Yeah, it merges into that. But you see more of the young Elvis and more of the... Basically, most of the film is concentrated on the up to the 1968 comeback special. And then it's you see his residency in Las Vegas, and then his decline, not musically, but his decline in his health towards... And that's the last sort of 7 or 8 years of his life.
What do you think of Tom Hanks, Sharon?
Amazing. Sorry, Shawnee?
What did you think of Tom Hanks?
See, I'm torn about
What did you think of Tom Hanks?
Yeah, I'm torn about his...
Elvis, my boy.
Yeah, because that was my reservations about the whole film, was that particular part of it, about... Because I don't remember seeing any real footage of Colonel Parker. And so I don't know how he talked, I don't know how...
not a lot.
So I don't know anything about him, really, other than what's sort of been reported. So I'm thinking... From this, I don't know if that was good or not, because I have got nothing to base it against.
I was surprised when I saw.
For you, then.
I was surprised when I saw what seems to be a bit of a German accent in the trailer. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Apparently he was Dutch. He was Dutch.
Yeah. So because the thing is, with Baz Luhrmann is a director who can sometimes be accused of having style over substance. He likes his big operatic numbers, and if you give him something that's going to be big and the emotions are turned up to 11 and everything like that, you would get. And I was wondering, and it sounds like what you're saying is that he does nail the spectacle, but Sharon, you were saying you felt like you walked away not really knowing anything new, because it doesn't really.
I revisited a lot of the footage, and it was visually it was amazing, because I went and re-looked up at the 1968 comeback special. Especially some of the songs that I thought, wow, that's a great song, I'm going to listen to that again. And I went, it was flawless. It was, perfect. But I was slightly uncomfortable at some aspects of it. And again, I thought, did I really understand Elvis anymore now? Or do I think of him as, was he a victim of Colonel Parker, or was he aware of? I wasn't really any clearer than I was before I went into that film. And there's a couple of scenes where the carnival at the beginning, you get some of the background things, like you have to think about there's a big geek exhibit in this carnival. You pass it, but it's enough that you go, are they because nothing's there by accident.
Yeah.
And the fact that when you go past this big geek thing on the sign, are they saying that Albus was exploited? Are they saying that he was exploited, a victim of Colonel Parker? And that he was turned into what he wouldn't have become without his influence? Or there's some elements where I'm thinking, whoa, I'm not sure if I'm really comfortable with that particular aspect of it.
Yeah, there is a school of thought that thinks that it was, Tom Parker did exploit him in a way because he handled all the finances and all that. I mean, I'm like you, Sharon. I mean, it's very, very sketchy about what goes on in that, because I didn't really know how much his actual family were involved in this, because in this, like, his father's involved quite a lot, isn't he?
Yeah.
In this one.
He's there
So, I mean, and I didn't realise quite that. It's just like manager or something. So, yeah.
Well,
but to summarise, I thought, it was an amazing spectacle. I mean, like I love Baz Luhrmann. I love Strictly Ballroom, was one of my favourite all-time films, one of his early films.
Yeah.
And so I do like the way that he does take things, and he has like a sort of twist. He has this sort of luscious, sumptuous sort of feel to everything, as like a feast for the eyes.
Yeah.
So I did like all those aspects of it. And the music, great. The only times I didn't like the music was when they suddenly would have a modern piece of music would be played, and I found it intrusive. There were some scenes like in the 50s where suddenly you'd get along like to me it sounds like just like.
Yeah, there's like there was some Elvis covers, wasn't there? There was some Elvis tracks sung by some.
I just didn't like them. I just thought, what is that music? And to me it was intrusive, and I was like, what's that? Yeah. And it just took me out of the film. So I was thinking, what's going on? Why is suddenly the soundtrack gone a bit weird?
Okay, so now we come moment of truth. How many stars would you guys give this?
Well, this is totally 5 all the way for me. Totally, this is my nail it, barnstorming, take it to the bank, number 5 for me.
All right, Sharon.
I would go with a 4. I had some reservations. I thought it was a really well done made piece of film making, but I would give it a 4. I had a couple of reservations where I felt a little bit uncomfortable at times, so I would give it a 4. But certainly I would recommend it. And it did make me revisit some real footage of Elvis. So I thought, well, that can't be bad, can it really, when it points you back to the source material. So I'll give it a 4.
I mean, I love Elvis.
To be honest with you, I think my problem with this film was I was just worried that they're gonna mess it up. They're gonna bish it. They're gonna mess the whole thing up. It sounds like they did it. So so that is 4.5 stars for Elvis. Well done, Baz Luhrmann. It's good to have you back.